So this week, we are moving on into chapter 4, which is conditional executions. The if statement. The whole if statement, it's a block, okay? And if it's a keyword, you have to type as exactly lowercase I, lowercase f. And then we will have a space, one space here, followed by parentheses. Okay, there are parentheses. Inside the parentheses is a Boolean statement we call test. So it's a Boolean statement, which we will talk about what that means. And then we have a beginning of the if block and end of the if block. Now, several things you need to pay attention. For example, at the end of this line, there's no semicolon. At the end of this line, there's no semicolon. So that means that the whole if block, we call if block, okay? The beginning line of the if block has no semicolon, and the last line of the semicolon, the block has no semicolon. And also remember, we have this right below the I, right below the I. Okay, so when you do the code as I demonstrate in my videos, you always start by writing this one here and say if, and then space, parentheses, and then we'll put in the Boolean statement inside the parentheses, then space, and left curly brace, hit enter, you will get the right curly brace. So have that first, and you don't have to worry about alignment. Then we will put a statement inside. When I say inside, you can see that there is an indentation, right? So there is a consistent indentation for all the statement that's inside the if block. What that means is that if the test, the Boolean expression is true, then all the statement will be executed. Otherwise, if it's not false, so if we are going here, right, and we say, tell me if this is true or false. If it is a false, then all the statements are skipped. So that means we are going right at the end of the if block. All right, so that's the chart here. We have the testing here to see if the test is true or false. Okay, if it's true, then we're going to execute all the statement inside the if block. Otherwise, we just go all the way to the end right away. So here is an example. Let's say we ask a user to enter GPA for us from the console, from the keyboard. And we don't know what the user is going to enter, right? And so this is the test. That's a Boolean expression to say if GPA is greater than or equal to 2.0, then we print, say, application accepted. If this is less than 2.0, then we are going to here, or to the statement right after the if block. So this is the simple if statement. Almost all useful applications must have an if statement, because otherwise the application is pretty much useless. They cannot handle situations. The next thing is the if-else statement. If-else statement, we start with the if block. Again, it's like if space parentheses and then the test, which is a Boolean expression, space and beginning of the if, and then we have and here. We end here. Okay. Now this is a two styles. So we could have this style like this one here, or I normally do is I am doing the else like this. Okay. The if block is just like what we had before. And then we have another situations to say, otherwise, if the test is not true, then we do something else. Okay, so the previous one says if it's not true, then we don't do anything. But this one says if it's not true, we will do something else. So the else, it's a keyword. You have to type exactly as is. It's lowercase else, followed by the space, and then the beginning of the else block and end of the else block. And look all the alignment here. And the statement in here is inside the else block. You can see the indentation here. Some of you asked me to say, do I need to give just 2 space or 4 space? I would say both are fine. If you have a 2 space, then make sure all your statements is two space. If you have a 4 space, make sure all your statement is a 4 space. Okay, so both are okay, but you don't want to have sometimes 2 space and sometimes 3 space, sometimes 4 space. So be consistent on the indentation here. Now here is an example here, and as in the previous example is that we have the test about the GPA is greater than equal to 2.0, right? So we have a print and we'll say if the GPA is greater than equal to 2.0, and then we print, say, a welcome to Mars University. Otherwise, that means if the GPA is less than 2.0, then we have something else to print out. We'll print out application denied. So the flow chart here, it just shows that we have 2 choices here. Okay, yes, have a choice, and no, have a choice. And they have 2 paths they can choose from. And before, we only have 1 path. Another just don't do anything, just go straight, just ignore it, if that's not the case. So both are very useful. And then we'll talk about the test, the if statement here. So they are what we call Boolean expression. Boolean expression. All right. So some examples of the Boolean expression is I, if you have an integer I, you want to test to see if I is less than equal to 10. So this is relational operators, right? And we can have less than, we've been see less than equal to. Okay, so if you have a statement like 126 less than equal to 100, it will tell you this is false. All right, we can also have greater than equal to, and so if you tell me, if asking if 5.0 is greater than equal to 5.0, it will say true. And we can have strictly less than and strictly greater than. And we can have checking to see not equal to. So 3.2 is not equal to 2.5, and this statement is true. So the test will return true. And equal. Now, this is the most mistakes. I saw this again and again. You want to test to see if the two numbers are the same. If you want to see if 1 plus 1 is the same as 2. Now, don't use 1 equal. 1 equal is an assignment. So if you do 1 plus 1 equal 2, then you will get some very weird situations. And most of the time, they're probably going to say always true. Okay, so to check equality, you have to use double equal. Double equal is to check the equality. And I see this happen a lot. So pay attention here. All right. So this gives you some examples of the Boolean expression. Boolean expression is just like any expressions. It's an expression, but the results, it's a true or false. Okay. This is a situation that show you the if statement is not using properly. Okay, now let's explain why. Let's just say you ask user for a percent, okay, and then you say if the percent is greater than 90, then you say you got an A. And the next block you say if the percent is greater than 80 and you print you got a B. And then so on and so forth. Now, why this is wrong? Okay, let's just assume a student gave you a 90. So we are going on here, right? You say if, so let's just say student gave you a percent, which is 93. So going on here, you say, is 93 greater than 90? Of course. So you print out, you got an A. So after you finish this if block, you go into the next if block. Is 93 greater than 80? Of course. Then you print B. And then you go here, the next block, and you say, is 93 greater than 70? Of course, then you print, you got a C. Just see the point here, right? So we only use the if block, then they will going through the if block like here, okay? They continue going through the if block and they will print you got an A, you got a B, you got a C, you got a D. And that's pretty bad. So be careful when we design the if statement. All right, so this is an example that it didn't work well. You thought this works, but no, it's not. So how we might be able to do it, and there is what we call the nested if-else statement, okay? And so we have multiple choices. And we can have first, which say if some situation is true. If it's not true, then we're using else if. Again, I prefer you guys using the style like this, okay? If this is not true, then we ask to say else if. So this is another keyword that work together. If the first statement is not true, then we check to see if the second one is true. Okay, so when we reach the second one, we already know the first one is not true. So the test here, when we're going into the statement here, we already know the first test is false. Okay, so when we reach the statement here, there are two conditions already. The first test is false, and the second test here is true. So pretty strong, all right? And then when we reach the else here, that means the first test is false, the second test is also false, and then we reach the statement here. Okay, so nested if else give us more precise choices about the situation. And now let's see if we can actually see the situation here. Actually, this one here, when we're using the else if, that will work. Okay, so we can do here, say if the percent is greater than equal to 90, and then you print A. Now, if we add else if, again, this is a lowercase, okay, else if, so that will work because when we reach this line, we already know percent is less than 90. So when we reach this one here, when we reach the else if here, we know percent is less than 90. And then we ask the next question. Now percent is less than 90. Is it greater than equal to 80? If that's true, then we can write you got a B. So the situation like this one here, we should using else if, okay, and that will work. All right. So I'm putting this back. And this is the situation. It's actually demonstrates the design is if we have more details, when we reach B here, you actually have two conditions, right? In the B here, you actually know that the percent is greater than 80 and it's less than 90. So it's already two conditions. All right. Let's just see.